Chapter 13, Insight 1. Do you mean this elixir is mine? Yes. Each division of the Divine Sword Squad is equivalent to the core forces of the 9 great sects. Along with budget, supplies also include spiritual medicines and elixirs, though they are not in large quantities. Of course, there is nothing as grand as Conching Jade or Millennium Snow Ginseng. I heard that the Shaolin has great rejuvenation pills, but that's beyond my jurisdiction. Ma Jin smiled broadly. You look like you want me as your master. Unfortunately, the laws of the Desolate Fortress prohibit personal master-disciple relationships between warriors of the same sect. It's to prevent any personal matters from affecting missions. I am grateful, but I hadn't thought that far. Understood. Should I bow in respect then? Can I do that here? If you're not afraid of the severe consequences of breaking the laws, go ahead. Yunshin caught the elixir Ma Jin tossed with a light chuckle. He stared at the white pill in his hand. He had never seen such a thing at the Zhong family. He hadn't even heard of it. It wasn't because the family head hated him, but because there was simply no such thing as an elixir in a backwater martial family. Given your level of inner energy, you should see significant benefits. Have you ever consumed any spiritual medicine before? No, I haven't. Absorbing the medicinal energy into your inner energy isn't easy with regular cultivation. If not done correctly, you might waste the precious effects. I can help. Come with me. Master. Why are you being so kind to me? It was a question that someone tainted by worldly ways wouldn't have asked. It was a question that only a boy with nowhere else to go could ask. The scar that crossed Ma Jin's face twitched cheerfully. I'm not giving you special treatment. Everyone in Demon Wings is treated the same. After experiencing life and death missions a few times, you'll understand. He tapped Yunshin's shoulder and walked past him. Yunshin watched his back for a moment, then slowly followed, brushing the arm of Wan Chang, who looked enviously at him. There was a ripple effect. The duel wasn't witnessed only by the experts of the 2 brigades, so the rumor spread quickly. Alluring Sun Sword. I heard your side has an extraordinary hidden dragon. Hidden dragon? Why? The rumor is widespread. They say a young swordsman who joined your ranks dueled with the Azure Sky Squad. Isn't Guiquan from the Azure Sky Squad a skilled swordsman? There's no way a white uniform could defeat a blue robe of the Desolate Fortress. Well, I don't know about a hidden dragon, but he's certainly a monster. What should I say? There's more nervousness than anticipation. Nervousness? Beck Miryo, the alluring Sun Sword, opened her mouth again to the questioning warrior from another squad. He's diligent and humble. Sometimes it's annoying when he says the right things without hesitation, but he's fundamentally polite. However, he's incredibly adept at dissecting martial arts. Isn't that right, Chong Myong? The blue-eyed man next to her nodded with a light smile. It's an unprecedented talent. I used 1-inch strikes during a spar, and then somehow that kid next to me is replicating the same technique in a different stance. It's incredibly irritating, but when I look back, his form is much more precise. There's something innately gifted about his ability to reinterpret techniques, to the point where it makes me hesitant to use my unique martial arts in front of him. He's already mastering them. Kyongmyong added lightly. Right. I think if he hadn't joined the Desolate Fortress, he would have died a vagabond somewhere. No martial arts sect would let such a talent live. At some point, Beck Miryo and Chong Myong were conversing. The warrior, who had been pushed to the background, frowned. What are they talking about? Are they mocking me? I don't understand. Neither do I. Miryo muttered, then signaled to Chong Myong with her eyes to send the warrior away. At the Demon Wings Hall, Chong Myong and Beck Miryo, along with the other skilled warriors of Demon Wings, naturally surrounded the area. Some were hidden on the roof in stealth, while others were casually chatting with visitors but never moving from their spots. In the center of this vigilant formation was the hall's interior. Yunshin and Ma Jin were there. Ma Jin, placing his hand on the seated boy's back, spoke. I don't know how much of the elixir you'll be able to absorb. Even if it seems you're not getting the expected results, do not act recklessly. While inner energy can always be accumulated, damaging your dantian or meridians will take years to heal. If you don't want to remain stagnant, remember this. Yes, Master. The amount of effort Demon Wings as a whole put into their youngest member was truly tremendous. To Yunshin, it felt almost overwhelming. He thought, so this is what it means to belong to a sect. He felt emotions he had rarely experienced before, tickling the top of his head. Listen. It's truly astonishing that you've already achieved the Great Circuit. You don't need to circulate qi through your lower body's meridians. Think of linking the major meridians of your upper body, the conception and governing vessels, from end to end. Place the medicinal energy in the flow of qi and keep circulating until it dissolves. The essence of consuming an elixir is constant qi circulation. If your qi flow becomes unstable, I will intervene, so don't be alarmed and go with it. Yes. Yunshin took the elixir and placed it in his mouth. As he chewed, he noticed it had no particular taste. It was said that the supreme elixirs like the great rejuvenation pills of Shaolin would melt on the tongue, but this one had to be chewed and swallowed. Soon, the energy from the elixir spread within his body. In the time it took to drink 2 cups of tea, the qi circulation was complete. Ma Jin didn't even have time to assist. He now had an expression that seemed to have given up trying to understand. Congratulations. You've completely absorbed all the medicinal energy. Yes. The increased qi is incredibly robust. It's incomparable to the energy I had before. Yunshin, who had consumed a spiritual elixir for the first time, observed the interior of his body with wonder. It was as described. His inner energy, which had always been exceedingly scarce, had now surpassed even the standard elixir distributed by the desolate fortress. It's surprising I managed to fight with such minimal inner energy. Now, I finally have qi befitting a white uniform. Ma Jin spoke, his face now relieved of its earlier frustration. I must go out now. Master, as well as the seniors, this is too overwhelming. Feeling burdened. The scar running down to Ma Jin's chin lifted. It was a now familiar smile. Don't be. Once you go out into the martial realm and face life and death situations a few times, this will become natural. The higher your martial arts skills, the better. And you'll earn merits too, right? Muttering to himself, Yunshin saw Ma Jin nod and spoke quietly. I want to go out into the martial realm. Yunshin had thanked his seniors with cupped fists more than 10 times. He was exhausted just from showing proper manners. Cheong Myong and Baek Miryo don't even seem like warriors. They touch shoulders and heads without hesitation. Excessive physical contact among martial artists was usually awkward. In the martial world, where favors and grudges were intricately intertwined, who knew if someone might use internal techniques to wreak havoc within one's body? Although he had gained his senior's favor through the duel with the Azure Sky Squad, Yunshin himself still hadn't fully integrated himself into Demon Wings. The elixir made him stronger, but mentally, he was exhausted. Though things changed once he returned to his quarters. You're training again? Wan Chang asked with an exasperated look. Yunshin nodded roughly and left the room. The Great Training Hall feels like too much right now. Demon Wings had 2 types of training halls. The first was the Great Training Hall, used for coordinated training in preparation for group battles and for disseminating missions and updates. The place he was heading to now was the small training hall, used by Demon Wings masters to practice unique martial arts outside the Demon Wings formation. As he passed by the Great Training Hall, he saw a large building without a ceiling. It felt like the labyrinth of the imperial tombs built above ground. Even from the outside, the qi emanating from inside was extraordinary. Yunshin wasn't the only one training. For someone with a certain level of inner energy, it wasn't difficult to discern others' qi. Passing by occupied rooms, he searched for an empty one. Even if he didn't sense any energy, he avoided places where a cloth, serving as a makeshift door, was hung, just in case. When he found an empty training room. Youngest. It wasn't a voice but a transmission of sound. It was the etiquette of the small training hall. They were cautious, lest anyone disturb someone who might be gaining enlightenment. Looking back, Baek Miryo, the alluring sun sword, stood there, her hands emitting waves of qi. She was a senior with such an imposing aura that it was hard to speak to her. Cautiously, Yunshin approached her gesture. What? ISSS? It? The sound transmission he learned with the Demon Wings formation was still a bit clumsy. The voice should be firmly condensed and transmitted, but to Yunshin, it still felt like a gentle breeze. It was due to his insufficient inner energy realm. Fortunately, Miryo didn't seem to mind much. I need a partner. Will you take a move? Did you gain enlightenment? Congratulations. It's just a small clue. You're not going to tell me you can't spar after showing such a performance at the duel, are you? Wouldn't the noise be too much? Let's go outside. The two left the small training hall. Walking silently, Miyo spoke as they approached the great training hall. If you had training planned, I apologize. I'm in a hurry. The enlightenment came to me suddenly. Actually, this works better for me. Solo training can be done anytime, but it's not every day I get to spar with a senior like the alluring sun sword. My ultimate skill is a sword art. Why do you speak of hand techniques? Don't you focus on your hands while unsheathing your sword? Unless you were practicing calligraphy, the alluring sun sword could unleash swift sword arts regardless of where her hands are. Miyo laughed softly. Despite her cold eyes, the smile suited her well. Just call me Senior Beck. As they conversed, they reached the great training hall. Some who enjoyed practicing in the open and others who were practicing the demon wings formation nodded their heads. Now, let's start by sparring. I'll take the first move. Since coming to the desolate fortress, Yunshin had heard enough of the phrase, "I'll yield the first move," to be tired of it. Responding to Yunshin's impudent words, Miyo smiled and gestured. She stood with empty hands, and Yunshin drew his sword without hesitation. But surprisingly, his wrist was quickly grabbed. She had swiftly closed in and seized his wrist. It was an incredibly fast joint lock. The unprepared blue uniform warrior he sparred with was not this strong. He could barely see her hand moving. Not yet. Demon wings formation. His left hand was free. He tried to strike with a straight fist following the chi trajectory, but the distance was too close to exert force. Instead, her body came even closer. At that moment, Miyo's hand, which was an inch away, struck his abdomen. Hup! Despite the close distance, she released a powerful strike. His body was pushed back, but his seized wrist remained held. Immediately, Yunshin's demon wings formation instinctively guided his body, and in a split second, he struck upward with his knee imbued with the chi of the Fatebreaker's codex. Miyo, who was now massaging her own wrist that had been knocked away with a thudding sound, had a face filled with astonishment and satisfaction. You managed the chi in your strike flexibly. I had a feeling, but it seems my 1-inch strikes have become more efficient. I can apply more power. She spoke with satisfaction. Were you practicing 1-inch strikes? A swordsman trained in the demon wings formation can't rely only on the sword. 1-inch strikes are very useful in close combat. Against an opponent covered in defensive chi, it's best to break their protective chi first. Yunshin cautiously spoke. May I, an unworthy junior, offer a word? I've been sensitive to chi since childhood, and your chi control caught my eye. You can see the movement of chi? Even for you, that's hard to believe. I merely observe the ripples of chi along with the flow of your internal force. I can't see chi residing within the body. Even that is unbelievable. Such a sense of chi. Perhaps only the Supreme Masters possess it. She was referring to the hierarchy of the desolate fortress, from white to black uniforms. Beck Miyo, who had slightly widened her eyes, continued in a calmer tone. But with you, we felt something too. All right. I'll listen, Junior. She smiled playfully at the end of her words. Yunshin spoke with a perplexed look. I recently started learning the rotational strike from Master. Your hand techniques seem more suited to internal force rather than 1-inch strikes. The control of chi appears well suited to the internal family heavy unarmed attacks. If you used the same force with internal force, it would be much. Are you already at that level with the internal family heavy unarmed attacks? What? Beck Miyo's eyes widened slightly. Chapter 14, Insight, 2. She soon had a dazed expression on her face, a look unimaginable from her usual demeanor. Beck Miyo, renowned both inside and outside the desolate fortress as a bold and cold swordswoman, now looked bewildered. Internal force. The inner family heavy unarmed arts. She didn't get angry right away. Instead, she stroked her lips with her long fingers, silently lost in thought. It's hard to accept. If a master focused on internal energy, the inner family heavy unarmed arts would be a basic technique. Do you take me for a fool who doesn't understand her own chi? No, but it seems like you are. Yunshin couldn't voice his thoughts this time. In his view, Miyo's chi method was subtle, and her chi mobilization speed was faster than that of other seniors, but it was meaningless if she didn't realize it herself. He didn't feel the need to continue the conversation. I apologize. I shouldn't have disturbed you with unnecessary words. They weren't close enough for him to insist on his advice at the cost of offending her. However, his overly bland attitude seemed to provoke Beck Miyo. Her smooth forehead creased. An experienced master in the martial world would also excel in psychological battles. Realizing that his inner thoughts had been read through her change in attitude, Yunshin slowly spoke. I'll take my leave now. Yes. I'm sorry. And thank you. Turning away from her, he headed back to the small training hall. If she didn't accept it, that was enough. Given her apology and gratitude, it didn't seem likely, but if she held a grudge for no reason, she would be no different from the brothers of the Zhong family. There was no need to waste energy on such a person. Since entering the desolate fortress, his martial arts had been improving day by day. He was just waiting for a chance to prove himself. I'll start training the combination of the charge strike. Yunshin completely pushed thoughts of Beck Miyo out of his mind. Master. Speak. Did you ever mention my martial arts origins to Lightning Flash? What kind of nonsense is that? Do you think that makes any sense? At the Demon Wings Hall, with the surrounding energy forming a barrier to block the sound, Ma Jin frowned. Miyo, sitting across from him, had a serious expression. If not, then how? It seems you misunderstand what happened. Seeing her murmur, Ma Jin opened his mouth. He must have seen through the martial arts you've been modifying. Lightning Flash is special. Even in the vast martial world, it's hard to find such talent. But there are such figures in the world. The Ming clan, the Iron clan, the absolute masters who claim to be the strongest in the world. Lightning Flash possesses inexplicable talent like them. Do you think practicing the lost heavenly demon divine art is a reason to avoid Lightning Flash? He is undoubtedly the future of the desolate fortress. I don't know what others who haven't seen him think, but there's no reason to dismiss his words as the advice of a novice. Such talent is unheard of. I understand that too. If there's anything to be concerned about, it's his nature. Fortunately, a small mission has come up. It's something 2 blue uniforms can handle alone, so having 2 blue uniforms and 2 white uniforms from the martial world isn't a bad idea. Watch how Lightning Flash crosses life and death situations with his companions. See if he's trustworthy. If his nature is good, should I even discuss the heavenly demon divine art with him? Your self-study has its limits. I don't have the luxury of time. If it's just about refining the divine art, it's right to seek Lightning Flash's help. He's fundamentally different. He adapts everything to fit himself. He has the potential to become a grandmaster. A grandmaster? Her eyes widened. Ma Jin continued speaking calmly. You don't need to worry about your legitimacy. Lightning Flash will develop his own unique martial path. You can see it from how he mastered the Demon Wings formation. I've never seen anyone practice it like that. It is indeed astonishing. Astonishing? That doesn't begin to describe his talent. He even enjoys martial arts. Beck Miyo sighed deeply. Ma Jin declared firmly. Within 5 years, Lightning Flash will become the leader of Demon Wings. Go and observe the nature of your future superior. *****. The next day, Yunshin, along with Haiyan Wenchang, were summoned to the Great Training Hall. There were only 3 people in the spacious area. Beck Miyo, Chong Myong, and Ma Jin, whom he had started to feel a bit awkward around. It's a mission. Ma Jin's blunt words made Haiyan Wenchang's body tremble with excitement. Finally, we're going into the martial world. Don't get too excited. You might die out there. Oh, yes. Beck Miyo, Chong Myong, Yunshin, and Haiyan Wenchang. The 4 of you will go. It's related to the Blood Flame sect. Prepare yourselves to leave the desolate fortress. Ma Jin said. At the mention of the Blood Flame sect, Yunshin's eyes darkened. A burning manner, blood dripping from the doorsteps, red clothes, and red hair. He slowly opened his mouth. Are you saying that for a matter involving the 13 heavens, we're sending 2 blue uniforms and 2 white uniforms? You should hear the background. Strictly speaking, it's not the main branch of the Blood Flame sect. We don't even know where that is. Ma Jin's explanation wasn't long. You're aware that the famine isn't just a problem in Hogwang, right? The Zhong family Shinya was relatively well off, but the broader region of Namyang was different. He had heard that arable land was dwindling across the entire Hannan province. According to Ma Jin, the situation was similar in Shuangxi province. A few years ago, during a poor harvest, starving villagers raided a local lord's manor. They didn't just take food. The household was driven out violently. Recently, it seems the lord's eldest son returned, with red hair and dressed in bright red. He pledged allegiance to the Blood Flame sect. Haiyan Wanchang muttered in disbelief. The Blood Flame sect was particularly notorious among the 13 heavens of the demonic sect. There were many rumors, but the one widely accepted was that they produced warriors through the power of blood, which bordered on both magic and martial arts. Like other demonic arts, it seems the eldest son of that manor quickly mastered the blood arts of the Blood Flame sect. He settled in the village, periodically slaughtering livestock and destroying crops. Destroying crops? Chong Myong, wearing a hood, murmured. Yanshin remembered that he was from the Ming clan. Does he only target livestock and crops? Yes. He uproots all potential crops and kills all the livestock, before waiting for them to grow before doing it again. Sounds like he's not right in the head. Not like any Blood Flame sect member I know. Wan Chang said, his eyes wide with surprise. It was as if he had never heard of such a thing before. You've never heard of a lunatic before? Are you serious? At Ma Jin's question, Wan Chang immediately looked embarrassed. Baek Miyo looked at him with a pitiful expression. Ma Jin spoke again. It's in Jinping County, southern Shuangxi. Normally, the Shuangxi branch would handle it, but recently, a case involving the theft of elixirs from the Mount Hua sect has escalated to involve the entire martial world in Shuangxi. They're short on resources and have asked our main sect for help. The Mount Hua sect had elixirs stolen? Are you referring to the Grand Violet pill, said to be comparable to the Shailin's Great Rejuvenation pills? Haiyan Wanchang asked with wide eyes. That's why it's causing such an uproar. That case might also come to our main sect soon. For now, focus on the immediate mission. Yes. He answered energetically. Various matters from the martial world were flowing in. Even Yanshin, who usually remained calm, was now acutely aware that he would soon be directly involved in the martial world, so it was easy to guess how Haiyan Wanchang felt. Ma Jin seemed concerned about this aspect as well. The zeal of youth entering the martial world for the first time, combined with martial skills and a sense of belonging to the desolate fortress, could lead to anything. Chong Myong, Baek Miyo, make sure to take care of the white uniforms. Ensure they return safely. Yes. I will do my best. Miyo's indifferent expression contrasted with Chong Myong's smiling face. Yanshin quietly grasped his sword, thinking of the Blood Flame sect and the Tyrant Sword sect slaughterers. He still didn't know why they had attacked the Zhong family. But now it didn't matter. The annihilation had already occurred, and even the estranged members of the Zhong family now harbored a sword in their hearts. He would kill them if he encountered them. I sincerely hope your necks are clean. He stroked his sword. The four of them quickly left Yangyang, heading northwest at a fast pace. It was a grueling march that silenced even Wan Chang, who seemed eager to experience the martial world. They said this was always the case with missions from the desolate fortress. They had free access to relay stations across the central plains and could ride horses for extended periods using the power of qi. There was no leisure. However, there was no relay station route from Hogwang to Shuangxi, so they had to conserve the horses' strength. They reached Jinping County from Yangyang in 10 days. Huff! As the local magistrate welcomed them, Haiyan Wanchang dismounted weakly. He seemed more mentally exhausted than physically. Miyo clicked her tongue. You can't imagine what it's like when martial artists use the relay station routes. Yanshin glanced at Haiyan Wanchang, whose face had turned pale, then turned his attention to the magistrate. Doesn't seem like he's starving. The magistrate's round face didn't look undernourished, only lacking in luster. However, his expression, looking at them, was a mix of relief and annoyance. I sent the message long ago, and you're only arriving now? How frustrating. Now that you're here, get down quickly. I thought I'd give you respect as swordsman of the great Ming Empire, but you took your sweet time. Can you even catch that person? With just the four of you. What's this about? Yanshin asked Chong Myong and Baek Miyo. Their familiar expression showed indifference. Tapping the back of his hood, Kyongmyong slowly spoke. There are ignorant officials among the magistrates. These guys think the desolate fortress is their broom. But they only act like this once, during their first time. There are many counties in the Central Plains, and many have never seen a real martial artist. What? What's this? You insolent brat. How dare you speak like that? Can I use the mute acupoint? Yes. Let's get this over with quickly. What nonsense. Before Chong Myong finished speaking, the magistrate's voice was cut off. Yunshin's hand, filled with qi, pressed the point between his spine and skull. Being taller than the magistrate, Yunshin looked down at him indifferently. I don't take orders from you. Sweat formed on the magistrate's forehead. He turned away, trembling. Chong Myong and Mio looked at him with satisfied expressions. He suddenly felt embarrassed. Lord Zhong, do you also practice acupoint techniques? Amazing! Wan Chang exclaimed. Acupoint techniques involved precise stimulation of a person's acupoints with a qi-filled hand. Not all martial artists could perform these techniques, but for Yunshin, who had mastered the Zhong family dynamic training art and understood the human body thoroughly, it was a natural study. I've thought about it for a while, but it's becoming harder to call you Lord. From now on, I'll call you Young Hero. Young Hero Zhong. Call me whatever you want, Desolate Hero. Even a light joke made Desolate Hero's lips curl into a wide smile. As they tied their horses in the government office's stable and went down, Kyongmyong draped an arm around Yunshin's shoulder. Do you know the saying, the government is untouchable? We're actually freer than other martial artists when it comes to the government. The imperial family allows it. We can suppress idiots who think we're shackled. That's the kind of sect the Desolate Fort is. A mute acupoint is quite a gentle touch, isn't it? Hyon Wan Chang added. Even so, it shouldn't be overdone. Mio, walking alongside, said. She then added quietly. You did well. Thank you. The time spent traveling with Mio to Shunping County had somewhat alleviated the awkwardness. Feeling a bit more relaxed, Yunshin suddenly narrowed his eyes. There, below the village. Blood Flame sect members. Before finishing his sentence, he kicked off the ground and started running. Chapter 15, Growth, 1. The wind harshly swept past his ears. As Yunshin sprinted with all his might, his body movements merged seamlessly with the principles of the Fatebreaker's Codex. Yunshin reached for his sword. I'll cut him down in one strike. A commotion broke out in the village's vast field. People were shouting for him to stop, while a red-haired man burst out laughing, saying they had no right to speak like that. They hadn't noticed yet, as they were quite some distance away. Then it happened. Whoosh! The edge of a bandana brushed against his cheek and flew away. It was Chong Myong, who had overtaken him with incredible speed. The level of soaring grace, where one skims over the tips of grass, was truly worthy of the elven race. The footwork of the Zhong family couldn't compete with the desolate fortress. Recently, he had been trying to develop essential self-defense techniques like lightness skills and footwork, but he lacked inspiration. Damn it! Eventually, even Baek Myo overtook him with her movement, and Wan Chang tapped him on the shoulder, saying he'd go first. In terms of movement skills, Yunshin still hadn't reached the level of a white uniform from Desolate Fortress. He knew this himself. His eyes moved keenly. Beyond the fields and livestock pens stretched many houses. Further out, green hills extended to the mountains outside the village, with dense forests that seemed unusual. It looked like a mountain suitable for hiding. They said he comes to the village periodically to cause trouble. The Central Plains were vast. Countless people lived in each district. The frequent appearances indicated that he must be hiding nearby, and there wouldn't be many places where he could conceal his red hair. It was well known that Blood Flame sect members were forbidden by their doctrine to wear hats or bamboo hats. Yunshin glanced down as he changed direction. The body of the Blood Flame sect member, who had blocked Chong Myong's swift strike, was thrown backward. It meant he couldn't handle a blue uniform from Desolate Fortress. What would happen if Baek Myo joined in? Just in case. He ran towards the hills. As he passed the frightened eyes of the villagers and reached the entrance to the mountain path, he realized he had made the right choice. Get out of the way! A man with disheveled red hair came running, his blood-red martial arts uniform showing signs of wear. It was surprising how he had shaken off Chong Myong and Baek Myo. Yunshin placed his hand on his sword and spread his fingers wide before gripping the handle tightly. Simultaneously, he initiated Demon's Light and aimed his sword. Swoosh! An intangible force akin to healer energy began to emanate from his body. He lowered his upper body and entered a stance with his right foot forward. The swift Demon's Light he executed was something even the high-level blue uniforms had struggled to counter. Kid? No, what is that? The Blood Flame sect member, who had been charging with a demonic face, showed a flicker of surprise. He then gritted his teeth and changed direction. Who? Where was he going? Yunshin was stunned. It was a moment where all his experiences of facing enemies head-on became meaningless. It was a shock to see the guy run away in the actual martial world. Yunshin realized that he lacked the footwork and speed to catch a Blood Flame sect member. In the end, he could only watch the back of the retreating figure helplessly. This is a mess. Chong Myong, who had approached without him noticing, gave a bitter smile. Yunshin, don't blame yourself. It's our fault. He had a life-saving technique. It was a self-defense skill suitable for escaping, typical of a Blood Flame sect member. Myo sighed as she arrived. A life-saving technique was exactly what it sounded like, a hidden martial art to save one's life. In his case, it seemed to be his footwork. It was completely opposite to Yunshin's abilities. A footwork faster than the soaring grace used by the elves? That guy, they said he hasn't been with the Blood Flame sect for long. Yunshin couldn't help but ask. Myong's bitter smile deepened. Those bastards are like that. They gain power through techniques that blur the line between sorcery and martial arts. Some of them fuse martial arts rapidly by burning both their own and others' blood. It's a trade-off for their lifespan. That guy must have had a particular talent. His swordsmanship didn't keep up with his lightness skills. It's strange that he's acting alone for so long. Blood Flame sect members aren't known for their independence. There's more to this. Myo spoke with a thoughtful expression. She glanced at Yunshin, who was slightly lowering his head in frustration, and continued. We all guessed it, but the guy's base must be nearby. Given his strange obsession, he won't just retreat. How about we take a break outside for once and wait leisurely? Yeah, you do that. Damn dwarf. Myong leaned back with his fingers interlaced behind his head, while Myo glared at him with narrowed eyes. As they conversed for a bit, they saw Wenchang running towards them, panting. Wenchang. Your overall martial arts attainment is decent. It matches a white uniform. But your stamina doesn't keep up. You might think your current level is enough, but in the martial world, you'll rarely face an opponent in perfect condition. It's lacking. Myo spoke in a detached tone. The flustered Wenchang bowed apologetically. Yunshin's eyes lit up. There was a reason why Ma Jin had sent these four. It was a tradition in Desolate Fortress for blue uniforms to oversee the training and achievements of white uniform warriors. It was a rare opportunity for top-level martial artists to personally guide them for their journey into the martial world. A benefit hardly found anywhere else in the Central Plains. And as for Yunshin, receiving Myo's gaze, he flinched inwardly. Her eyes were softer than usual. Your foundation is surprisingly well laid. Even among the 9 great sects and the 8 great families, such cases are rare. I knew when I saw you running without any tricks. Physically, there's no one in the blue uniform who can match you, not even scrawny dwarfs like Chong Myong. Myo scanned Yunshin's physique with an unbiased look and smiled contentedly. A martial artist needs to have a good body. With such a physique, you can't help but master any martial art. That's right. Don't be discouraged by the movement skills for now. Myong, not minding being called scrawny, smiled and patted Yunshin's shoulder. The awkward expression of the Desolate Fortress warrior, looking envious, was also left behind. Yunshin changed the subject, feeling rewarded for dedicating his childhood to Zhong family dynamic training. Is it okay to stay at the government office? I was quite harsh. What if it's not? We're from Desolate Fortress. He should cooperate with us. That's right. The discomfort is his, not ours. Thanks to you, that official must have realized his position. Myong agreed with Myo. It seemed like a trivial matter to them. But the authority of the magistrate in his hometown of Shinya country had been significant. It reminded him of the Desolate Fortress's prestigious position. an unprecedented sect that was unmatched in both the martial and government worlds. I've really joined a comfortable place. I just need to do my part. He only needed to consider the opponent's strength deeply, without worrying about the group's power. How many places like this existed in the vast world? By the way, would you like to learn how to walk? Walking? Do you mean self-defense techniques? Yunshin questioned, seeing Myong's puzzled expression. Chong Myong scratched his head. I can't teach you our sect's martial arts, but I can show you how elves move. Usually, people can't do it even if they know, but you might be able to. Elven movement techniques. Wan Chang exclaimed. His expression was desperate, as if begging to be taught as well. This time, Yunshin fully understood his reaction. Having encountered many elves recently, he had become desensitized to their exotic features and long ears. Yet, in most of the Central Plains, elves were still seen as celestial beings. Their realm was that deep and exclusive. Their unaging beauty, extraordinary agility, and the clan's reputation as companions of nature often made them the stuff of myths among common folk. Wan Chang pleaded earnestly. To witness the elven movement techniques is an unparalleled opportunity. Please, grant me this chance as well. Sure. How could I discriminate against a fellow demon wing? It's just that most people can't use it even if they learn it. Chong Myong's face showed even more discomfort. Mio shook her head beside him. Just show them. Why worry about disappointment already? Well, someone once accused me of not teaching the essentials and doubted for over a year. In the end, they couldn't master it. Who are you talking about? There aren't many such people. No one in Demon Wings has mastered it. Mio, pretending not to know, turned and said she'd scout the village. Myong watched her leave with a chuckle, while Wan Chang muttered dejectedly. No one in Demon Wings mastered it? Is it truly a technique exclusive to elves? It's not systematically structured. It's just a way of walking and running. Suddenly, dust swirled at Myong's feet. Without any flow of chi, his trousers fluttered in the wind. Watch. He lightly kicked off the ground and soared, without making a sound. With elegant movements, he stepped on the side of a tree several times before standing on its top branch. It was beyond human. The desolate fortress warrior, who had approached in a daze, craned his neck and gaped upward. Without using chi, it's as if chi is supporting him. Yunshin watched Myong intently, recalling his movements. Myong, closing his eyes momentarily on the tree, inhaled the forest air before descending like a feather. He landed as softly as a falling leaf, again without any noise. It was a remarkable and terrifying self-defense technique. Moving without a trace was like having a lethal weapon. Yunshin pondered deeply. Do you understand? Myong, approaching with a doubtful expression, asked and then flinched alone. Did I disturb your meditation? No. I was thinking about how to create wind with chi. I don't have the powers of an elf. What? Myong's eyes widened at Yunshin's casual words. You perceived the natural energy at a glance and comprehended it. How is that possible? Isn't that why you showed me? A few ideas came to mind. If I break down the movements into steps and intermittently release chi, Yunshin, who was gradually falling into a trance, returned to focus and smiled at Chong Myong. Thank you for the excellent inspiration. I often feel guilty for just taking from Desolate Fortress, but I believe I can significantly contribute to this mission. Chong Myong stared blankly at Yunshin, who even showed courtesy by bowing. Wan Chang, wearing a similar expression, approached. Shall we unpack at the lodging? For Master Zhong's sake. Yes, let's do that. The three walked towards where Mio had gone, slightly trailing behind. Yunshin, walking a bit behind, was constantly glanced at by Myong and Wan Chang. As if the chaos caused by the Blood Flame sect was a distant memory, the cool spring evening breeze of the first season gently touched their shoulders. By the time they leisurely arrived at the government office in Jinpiang County, the sun had fully set, and the sky was bathed in the warm hues of dusk. The 4 members of Demon Wing settled in the government office. Yunshin, who had released the pressure points of the magistrate, immersed himself in the basics of the movement technique, not showing any signs of a typical martial world novice. He went to bed, contemplating martial arts, brushing off the fearful glances. If I think ahead about my movements and release chi intermittently with each step. Yunshin slowly closed his eyes. Chong Myong, who had been sleeping in a hammock strung between trees, groggily opened his eyes. He enjoyed the sunlight that woke up the vegetation along with him. Smiling pleasantly, he glanced down. A boy stood silently with his eyes closed in the clearing below. Clad in his desolate sword at his waist, he enveloped his entire body in calm energy. Perhaps it was confidence in his current training, indifferent to anyone watching. Myong smiled in admiration. In the midst of the sunbeams piercing through the leaves. With the morning sunlight, Yunshin's body briefly swayed. Then, a light dust wind rose from his step, and his body spun as he kicked off the ground, scattering leaves. Ching Myong's eyes widened. Crazy. Chapter 16, Growth, 2. Several days passed as Yunshin dedicated himself to training. Myong occasionally gave him odd looks, but given his free-spirited and transcendent nature, it was understandable. The elven movement techniques he was mastering day by day were too captivating to divert his focus elsewhere. Movement skills involved learning how to run gracefully. It was impossible not to be influenced by the accomplishments of such nimble techniques. It didn't take long for the inspiration he drew from Myong's movements to crystallize into a coherent set of techniques. Though it was still in the form of a basic framework for chi manipulation, there was ample room for improvement. As the founder of a martial technique, he naturally understood its core principles. There's no comparison between a trainee who learns and masters something and a grandmaster who creates something and perfects it, even if they're just starting. Miyo remarked. While tracking the traces of the Blood Flame sect members and guarding against other possible attacks, the Demon Wings team noticed the daily transformation in Yunshin's movements. Though Yunshin trained openly, his companions didn't spy on his practice out of respect. They could guess his achievements based on the improvement in his martial arts. A grandmaster's talent, indeed. It's hard to believe, even while watching it. Our captain chose to focus on his own self-defense techniques instead. Chong Myong, who had been sleeping under a net bed, moved indoors after seeing Yunshin's progress. A month had passed since their encounter with the Blood Flame sect member. It was frustrating. It wasn't that they hadn't seen the enemy again. The village's cattle, horses, pigs, and chickens continued to die off slowly. It was clear that the Blood Flame sect's aim was not just to kill livestock, but to torment the villagers. Despite this, they avoided the fields, likely due to Chong Myong's vigilance. Myong seemed unbothered by the animal deaths and was content to play the role of a menacing scarecrow. This led to some disputes. While Miyo planned patrol routes, Myong would climb up to the net bed, claiming he needed to soak up some sunlight. Frustrated, Miyo alternated between taking Chang and Yunshin with her on patrol. That guy is not alone. He knows our patrol routes. Another horse died this time. The magistrate, who disliked the smell, had placed the stable far from the government office, which was problematic. A single horse was invaluable, especially in Jinpyeong County, where it was worth more than any other resource. Chang approached the net bed, his expression dark. Having received basic martial arts training, he had grown comfortable enough to express his displeasure openly. How can you be so nonchalant? Tell me, are you really an elf? A horse is dead. Yesterday it was a pig, Yunshin remarked as he passed by. Myong replied further. We elves are friends of the forest, not of horses and pigs. If you die, it might matter then. Look at it this way, I'll just wipe out his whole clan to make up for it. Yunshin said with a grin as he walked to the washing area. Elves from desolate fortress like Myong were said to be carefree and unburdened by heavy responsibilities. Yunshin, as a warrior of desolate fortress, was gradually coming to understand the world. After washing, he found a feast laid out. The plump magistrate was rubbing his hands together, looking nervous. Thinking that this man would become a sycophant if he ever advanced to the capital, Yunshin understood why he was acting this way. The magistrate had seen warriors fly over the fields for a month. Please, join us. The magistrate smiled awkwardly. After avoiding them for some time, it seemed he had made a decision. Yunshin, not particularly interested, sat down with the Demon Wings team to discuss their plans. They talked about how to change the surveillance net, the number of allies they had, and whether they should start searching and hunting in the surrounding mountains, despite their vastness. During the past month, Yunshin had learned that there were various kinds of battles, and that the short, decisive fights most masters preferred were not easily achieved in reality. After the meal, they had another training session before going to bed, now familiar with their sleeping arrangements. The sound of a night bird's call, like a short bamboo flute, filled the peaceful night of the two martial world initiates. The next day, Yunshin went out alone. Getting permission from Miyo and Myong was easy. They underestimated the abilities of the local allies who feared the high-ranking members of Desolate Fortress. Both masters considered Yunshin highly likely to win in a direct confrontation with a Blood Flame sect member. A mere speedster couldn't defeat him with his current level of lightning flash. Strange. To Yunshin, the Desolate Fortress seemed like a separate realm. Being fully recognized by the blue uniform sometimes felt quite strange. Not bad, though. Whether it was because of his rapidly improving movement techniques or just his mood, his steps felt lighter as he climbed the mountain. Unlike Chong Myong, he couldn't afford to be leisurely. Until yesterday, he had focused on mastering his movement techniques, but he couldn't continue that way indefinitely. Feeling stifled, he decided to survey the entire district from the mountain top, considering it part of his movement technique training. He wandered through paths the team hadn't searched yet. As the sun was setting, he found a peculiar hut in front of a cave. It appeared to be a door or passageway. The team's month-long efforts had finally borne fruit. The smoke must have been venting elsewhere. If they weren't only eating survival pills, there's no way they wouldn't leave any trace. Now I understand why we couldn't find them. He turned around without hesitation. If it came to it, he wouldn't hesitate to risk his life, but there was no reason to create variables intentionally when the situation allowed for caution. He had joined Desolate Fortress to survive and seek the fruit of the heavenly tree. Dying pointlessly would make it all meaningless. With a mix of tension and excitement, he stepped down the dirt path, but then he decided to change his mind. "Who are you?" He faced a red-haired man climbing up with his teeth sunk into the neck of a deceased young boy. Despite the unfamiliar face and shabby clothes, his hair was unmistakably blood-red. As he recalled the stories about Blood Flame sect members stealing the vitality of children to enhance their strength, Yunshin assessed his opponent's posture and energy. An ally. This must be the Blood Flame sect member backing them up. He subtly moved his hand towards his sword. A young kid with a sword, deadly intent, and a white uniform with the character Desolate inscribed on it. The man, mumbling as he scanned Yunshin up and down, curled his lips into a grin. "Just as I heard. Thanks to you Desolate Fortress brats, I can achieve great merit. I'm not like my brother who ran away from you. Curse your bad luck." Swish dash. In an instant, a flash of white light severed the man's neck. The child, who fell from his now limp hand, stood briefly before collapsing behind the boy's body. Yunshin, now standing beside the man, swung his sword to shake off the blood. "Let's end this now," he muttered. To call this bad luck? No matter how many there were, it wouldn't matter if they couldn't react to him or his sword. Even if this was the first mission involving the Blood Flame sect among the 13 heavens, it didn't seem like it should have taken a whole month. These guys couldn't be left alive. Using the Fatebreaker's codex, he dug a hole and buried the child after closing his eyes. He didn't cover the body with much earth. Although the victim didn't seem to be from Jinpyeong County, he planned to ask the magistrate to find the parents once the job was done. With his sword in hand, Yunshin turned towards the hut. As he moved, the fresh wind began to swirl around his legs, lifting his steps. The bushes underfoot seemed to rise as if they weren't bearing his weight. Like the elves, his movements grew stealthier as he approached the hut. Boom! When he stepped hard, the peacefully standing grass was trampled all at once. With tremendous force, the demon's light technique infused into his sword turned the hut and the Blood Flame sect members within into shreds. The last thing they ever saw was a white lightning bolt. Splat! What? Through the scattering dust and debris, he saw the figure of a man gasping as his body was split in half and another who was horrified behind him. Each of them was holding a corpse. The issue wasn't limited to Jinpyeong County. The Fatebreaker's Codex. He had no intention of talking. Strengthened by spiritual medicine, his chi surged with power. It flowed through his veins and enhanced his sharp movements even further. Smash! Smash! Crack! The force of his strikes with the desolate sword was enough to obliterate everything in his path. His swordsmanship, infused with charged strike, exhibited lethal precision. The vibrations from the sword traveled up to his elbow, mirroring the rage in Yunshin's heart. The scene of splattered blood and shattered bodies painted a gruesome picture. You believe the strong should devour the weak, right? That's fine by me. The Blood Flame sect members fell, their bodies resembling the corpses they had been playing with. Beyond the torn hut, he saw the interior of a cave lit by scattered torches. It was clear this was a branch of the Blood Flame sect. The Blood Flame sect members in Jinpyeong County were insignificant compared to this. Can I handle this alone? He calculated his chances before entering. The blood boiling within him and survival were two separate issues. However, perhaps because of the commotion at the entrance, the energy deep within the cave had already detected him. An oppressive wave of qi, filled with malevolence, emanated from the cave's depths. Kill him! A deafening roar echoed like a heartbeat. Simultaneously, footsteps resounded from all directions. 2, 3, 5. 5 minions, plus one who seemed to be the branch leader. He had heard that the branch leaders of the Blood Flame sect were formidable warriors known as Blood Masters. Known for their martial prowess, they were said to be instructors as well. However, he had no time to gauge his opponent as the Blood Flame sect members charged at him. You dare come here? Repay in blood. Among the 5 of them, the man Yunshin was looking for could be found. The red-haired man's eyes widened momentarily in surprise, but then he grinned and charged with his sword, emboldened by the presence of his comrades. Yunshin didn't retreat. He took a step forward. Boom! The ground shook from the force of his step, pushing back the advancing enemies. Ignoring their hesitation, he infused charged strike into the desolate sword. As he turned, he felt the elven wind wrap around him. The first person Yunshin had ever killed was a member of the Blood Flame sect. The strike he delivered now was on a completely different level. Swish tilde! In the flickering torchlight, a silver arc traced through the air, cleaving 3 bodies in one stroke. The sensation traveled up his sword. The Blood Flame sect members collapsed with the same bewildered look in their eyes they had when they charged. The surviving 2 were horrified. The Jinpyeong County Blood Flame sect member tried to retreat, but Yunshin, now like a leaf caught in a storm, brought down the charged strike. With a crushing sound, his sword split the man's body, ending his revenge. What the? The last one standing was cut down by another swift strike before he even realized what was happening. Yunshin, flicking the blood off his sword, stared into the darkness of the cave. He wondered what kind of reaction it would cause if a white uniform from Desolate Fortress exterminated a Blood Master. That wasn't his concern right now. Thud! His slow, deliberate steps echoed with a clear sound. The desolate sword hummed, praying for the success of its sole companion. The cave was damp and dark, lit sporadically by torches. Yunshin's senses were heightened, his perception of qi sharp. He moved stealthily, avoiding obvious pathways, his mind focused on the task at hand. Ahead, a faint light flickered. He approached cautiously, blending into the shadows. In the dim light, he saw a figure sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, surrounded by an ominous aura. A Blood Master. Yunshin read it himself, his grip tightening on the desolate sword. The final confrontation was imminent. His footfalls were silent, his movements fluid. As he drew closer, the figure's eyes snapped open. You dare to come here, Desolate Fortress scum! The Blood Master rose, drawing a wicked-looking sword. The air around them crackled with hostile energy. Yunshin didn't respond. He let his sword do the talking. With a swift motion, he launched himself at the Blood Master. Their swords clashed, sending sparks flying. The cave echoed with the sound of metal against metal, the clash of 2 formidable warriors. Yunshin's movements were precise, his strikes fueled by the training he had undergone. The Blood Master countered with equal ferocity, their battle a deadly dance of blades. It was a fight for survival, for honor, for the countless lives lost to the Blood Flame sect. Yunshin pushed himself to his limits, his mind clear, his focus unyielding. He couldn't afford to lose. The Blood Master was relentless, but Yunshin matched him blow for blow. He could feel the weight of the desolate sword in his hand, its power surging through him. With a final, decisive strike, Yunshin found an opening. His blade cut through the Blood Master's defenses, striking true. The Blood Master staggered, a look of shock and disbelief on his face as he fell. Yunshin stood over him, his breathing heavy, his sword stained with blood. It was over. He had succeeded. The cave was silent once more, the echoes of their battle fading into nothingness. Yunshin took a moment to catch his breath, then turned around and began his journey back. There was still much to do, but for now, he had won a significant victory. As he emerged from the cave, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, signaling a new day. Yunshin, a white uniform of desolate fortress, had proven his strength, his resolve to earn a spot in the world of martial arts. Chapter 17, Return. At the end of the dimly lit path lined with torches, he stood. This Blood Flame sect member was different from those Yunshin had encountered before. His red hair was streaked with black, and a sinister aura surrounded him, palpable enough for Yunshin to feel on his skin. He was a Blood Master. Just as described, his appearance matched the tales. The red hair of the Blood Flame sect warriors was said to manifest from their internal energy, but when some of it began to revert to its original color, it indicated that they had reached a level of refining their chi. This won't be easy. The Blood Master drew his sword, striding forward with a face full of anger, exuding an overwhelming, lethal aura that felt like 100 needles being shot out. A mere worm has disrupted the business of our sect. I will replenish my blood with your pain. Do you intend to steal my chi with blood cultivation? It wasn't a genuine question. He had already calculated his next move before speaking. A young boy in his mid-teens taking on an entire branch of the Blood Flame sect alone. It was unthinkable. The approaching warrior, holding his sword, surely believed the same. Even after slaying several cultists, the one with streaks of black hair was on a different level. Here we go. The chi that surged from within his dantian spread throughout his body. The chi from the Zhong family dynamic training circulated through his entire body, intertwining with the principles of the Fatebreaker's Codex. Strike before he gets close. The effectiveness of a preemptive strike was a lesson learned from defeating a blue uniform master of the Azure Sky Squad. Thud! With a step that mirrored the unnamed leaf-stepping footwork of the elves, he spun halfway around. The chi concentrated powerfully in his waist and thighs, his internal energy flowing faster than it had during his training at the Zhong family. With a forceful kick powered by Demon's Light, the air split threateningly. Whoosh! The Blood Master's face showed a hint of surprise as he approached with the torchlight behind him, but he swiftly leaned back, evading Yunshin's kick. HMMPH. With an angry expression, the Blood Master swung his sword, but Yunshin had already planned his next move. Bang! He swiftly planted his right foot and lunged forward, his body low. A fierce wind accompanied his rapid approach as he targeted the enemy's wrist with his left hand. It was the joint lock, an instinctive strike from Zhong family dynamic training, enhanced with the force of Demon's Light. The Blood Master's eyes widened, not in surprise but in anger, as if saying, "How dare you?" For someone of his caliber, such an approach was unthinkable. But Yunshin was no longer the boy who couldn't endure the destruction of his clan. His left hand, moving gracefully, carried the deadly force of Demon's Light. What the? The enemy's cry of shock was no different from that of the other Blood Flame sect members whose faces were eating dirt at the cave entrance. Yunshin knew how to use his appearance and age like a predator. Once he bit down, it was over. With a fierce grip, his hand, imbued with the monstrous strength of Zhong family dynamic training, crushed the enemy's wrist. Ah! The Blood Master writhed in pain, but despite his agony, sinister chi radiated from his body. Even without seeing it, Yunshin could sense it. The enemy was trying to knee him and smash his head with a knife hand. But the swift sword strike from the desolate sword was quicker. Demon's Light followed no fixed form. Ma Jin's teachings from over a month ago echoed with a hint of amusement. Simultaneously, the chi layered with the Fatebreaker's Codex concentrated in his right arm. Imagining the mythical giant Pangu who pushed back mountains, he thrust his sword forward with raw power, foregoing technique. Gah! The strike cut deep, scattering the enemy's chi. Yunshin spoke slowly. You've only ever inflicted pain, haven't you? It's clear even just by looking. You've never suffered. Ah! As he pressed the sword further in, the enemy's screams grew weaker and more broken. Holding the enemy close, Yunshin felt the Blood Masters ebbing away. His resolve, hardened by the destruction of his clan, remained unbroken. There's a saying in the martial world, beware of the old, the weak, and the young. He whispered into the enemy's ear, but it seemed he couldn't hear anymore. Yunshin coldly pushed the body away. The Blood Master, now a corpse, crumpled to the ground. I only needed to kill one Blood Flame sect member in Jinpyeong County. But he had ended up wiping out an entire branch of the Blood Flame sect. In the end, it was a significant achievement, so it didn't matter. Yet, the bitter taste in his mouth was likely due to the sight of the emaciated children lying around. He thought of the Zhong family. I wish you eternal peace in paradise. Yunshin knelt and closed the eyes of each child. You've drawn your sword. What happened? Are you all right? These were Miyo's first words when she saw Yunshin descend from the mountain. Her concern-filled gaze felt more like that of an older sister now, and he didn't mind. Covered in blood that wasn't his own, wearing the blood-soaked white uniform of Desolate Fortress, and with a lifeless child strapped to his back, her concern was understandable. It's not my blood. I found what appears to be a blood flame sect branch. A blood flame sect branch. Just as I thought. Miyo nodded and spoke again. I'm glad you're all right. Tell me about the setup if you have any information. How many did you fight? We need to be prepared since their hideout has been discovered. There were 8 red-haired blood flame sect members. There was also a strong one with mixed black and red hair. A blood master? Her eyes widened slightly. Before Yunshin could continue, she spoke rapidly, true to her nature. Yes, if a blood master was there, it was definitely a branch. They were nesting here too. No matter their mission, the blood flame sect is a target for Desolate Fortress. You've done a great job, so rest now. Myong and I will go. All 9 of them are already dead. You can send just the local soldiers. You said there were 8 plus 1 strong one, didn't you? If there were 9. Did you just say the soldiers will be enough? Noticing Yunshin's calm demeanor, Miyo's expression grew puzzled. Then, slowly, her face showed astonishment. Lightning flash, are you saying you defeated the Blood Flame sect members, including the Blood Master, alone? I killed them all. Huh? It was a curious exclamation. It sounded more like pure surprise and admiration than doubt. At that moment, someone dropped down from above. With a light movement, smelling of fresh grass, Myong appeared, looking shocked. You took down an entire Blood Flame sect branch by yourself. They had already turned it into a slaughterhouse. Yunshin replied with an unreadable expression. Their gazes briefly lingered on the child on his back. Damn those cultists. Miyo muttered. Blood Masters have a peculiar regenerative power. You didn't get stabbed in the back, did you? Myong tried to steer the conversation, continuing without pause. Sorry. We overlooked telling you something important. Blood Masters are practically considered reapers in the lower martial world, and there aren't many masters across the Central Plains who can kill them. It's not easy to share such information. Miyo, nodding, rarely looked genuinely sorry. It's our fault. I'm glad you're safe, but Desolate Fortress should have told you about this. Martial artists from other sects were fatally stabbed in the back despite defeating the Blood Master because they didn't know about their regenerative power. Even high-level masters sometimes get caught off guard, but you managed to stay safe. Myong smiled warmly. Listening quietly, Yunshin nodded slowly. Regenerative power, hey. I see. He untied the child from his back. As he extended his hand, red and black hair fell forward. It was the Blood Master's head, eyes still wide open. Myong and Miyo were silent for a moment. Yes, regenerative power. It's real. Myong answered with a slightly grim expression. Meanwhile, Miyo patted Yunshin on the shoulder, clearly proud. Make sure to claim your credit. That's a good mindset. Indeed, this is not an ordinary achievement. For someone newly promoted to white uniform in Desolate Fortress, it's even more remarkable. Myong studied the Blood Master's head carefully as he spoke. The black hair indicates it wasn't long since he started reverting. That branch was relatively weak. Miyo shook her head. Regardless, finding and destroying a Blood Flame sect branch on your own is no small feat. Even the members of the 17 Squads and Azure Sky Squad would be more inclined to respect your achievement rather than diminish it. It's a significant incident beyond mere astonishment. Of course. Myong nodded, then tapped the shoulder of Wan Chang, who had quietly approached and was staring at the Blood Master's head in awe. He's dead. What are you afraid of? I am not afraid. Do you know how many bandits and pirates I've killed with these hands? The group laughed at Wan Chang, who seemed to revert to his initial nervous state. From then on, the situation was out of the hands of Demon Wings. When the magistrate saw the severed head of the Blood Master, he was terrified and sent soldiers immediately. There were rumors that some of the soldiers who witnessed the carnage at the Blood Flame sect branch soiled themselves. The magistrate, realizing the severity of having such fearsome enemies operating nearby, repeatedly thanked Yunshin, holding his hands in gratitude. The Blood Master's notoriety was well known among the common people, more so than among martial artists. The bodies strewn around the branch weren't local children. The Blood Flame sect members were presumed to have kidnapped them from nearby areas, but it wasn't clear whether these disappearances were the work of martial artists, so the information hadn't reached Desolate Fortress. After spending 4 days sorting out the aftermath. "If you ever pass by again, please do visit us," the now very polite magistrate addressed the departing Demon Wings team. The scene was both similar and drastically different from their first encounter, particularly the way he looked at Yunshin with burning admiration. Yunshin, who hadn't experienced much of the outside world, sensed that the magistrate's eyes held not just pure respect but also a desire for connection. "He wants to align himself with a promising young warrior from the martial world, huh?" Myong's telepathic voice carried a hint of amusement. "Jinpyeong County Magistrate. That's his life." Nodding vaguely, Yunshin saw the magistrate smile brightly. Perhaps he was a person of considerable capacity, given his ability to act this way despite the humiliation he had faced. "I am Yugen of Jinpyeong County. Please remember me." With that, the group turned their horses and left Jinpyeong County behind. It had been a long yet brief, peaceful yet brutally resolved affair. The first mission for the 2 white uniforms of Demon Wings concluded with Yunshin's solo achievement. The journey back was more relaxed. They even took longer breaks for the horses to eat, allowing Wenchang to avoid turning pale, although he often wore a worried expression. "Young Master Zhong achieved a brilliant feat, but I feel like I did nothing." "That's actually normal. Just maintaining vigilance and stopping the Blood Flame sect members' misdeeds was enough." Miyo initially comforted him, but as the same conversation repeated several times, she eventually stopped responding, her expression neutral. Instead of camping outdoors, they stayed at inns and gradually made their way back to Anyang. The first thing that caught their eye was the massive walls of the Desolate Fortress, towering above even Anyang's outer walls. Yunshin smiled faintly. Despite not being away for long, he felt a curious sense of joy. "It seems livelier than usual," Myong remarked suddenly. "It's been a while since I completed a mission. I'm heading to the tavern to celebrate." Wenchang was grinning, evidently excited about their return to Desolate Fortress. The bustling activity of merchants, hawkers, and people of various appearances moving about the main road energized him, lifting even the spirits of the normally reticent Desolate Fortress warrior. "Not you. I mean the people here. They seem more excited than usual." "Wait a minute." Myong closed his eyes and fell silent. The group, familiar with the eld's keen senses, followed suit. Thanks to Myong's acute hearing, they did not have to take turns standing watch during their travel. "Ah, I heard he's coming. It's a big event for everyone here, considering how much Desolate Fortress values those who achieve great merit. I just heard too. The former captain of the Divine Sword Squad is finally arriving." Miyo's words caused Yunshin to tense up momentarily. Noticing his reaction, she spoke again. If he's challenging for a position in the Elders' Council, he wouldn't ignore the sentiments of the people in Anyang. The head of the Elders' Council in Desolate Fortress would be closer to a member of the royal family than the head of Anyang. Everyone here is excited, even in a famine year, they would get at least a bushel of rice each. It seems he has already arrived. Yes, they said he passed by earlier, with a boy sitting in front of him on the horse. That boy must be the rumored adopted son of the Desolate Ma family. I heard he has extraordinary talent. However, Myong, appearing uninterested, urged them to continue moving. "Talent, huh?" Miyo's long, black hair swayed with the horse's gait as she chuckled softly, glancing at Yunshin. He nodded slightly, remaining calm. Stroking the horse's neck, he kept pace with the group. Soon, the 4 members of Demon Wings reached the main gate of Desolate Fortress, marking the end of their long mission. Chapter 18, Fist Techniques, 1. Thanks to Chong Myong and Baek Miyo's consideration, the 2 members in white uniforms were able to head straight to their quarters. Their discretion was widely trusted in the Desolate Fortress, recognized by everyone alongside their formidable martial prowess. In such moments, the atmosphere was distinctly different from the military. "It feels like I won't have the energy to leave once I'm in. We'll have to visit Anyang's best tavern some other time," joked Hyeon Wenchang. "I should just relax and head to bed myself. You must be planning to train for an hour or so." "Truly impressive, Master Zhong," he remarked, without even showing the slightest hint of being tired. It had become a normal reaction for him. As they journeyed together, Wan Chang increasingly saw Yunshin as someone from another world, like a figure from a fantastical realm rather than just a distinguished family member. To him, Yunshin's strength was beneficial as a fellow trainee and comrade. He saw value in learning from Yunshin's seemingly trivial words and actions. Rest well. With a small smile, Yunshin left the hall. As he headed towards the small training hall, several seniors he passed greeted him warmly. A few even flinched upon receiving his salute, particularly those with keen senses, as they seemed to perceive the changes in his chi after his recent missions. His changed remarkably. Just looking at his chi, he's almost unrecognizable. It's incredible how quickly boys grow at his age. This is completely different. The phrase daily renewed seems to apply only to him. It won't be easy for us from now on, will it? No one dared to refute the blue-uniformed warrior's last statement. The silent acknowledgement was mutual. A boy capable of challenging a blue master at the desolate fortress was an anomaly in itself. Yunshin mostly ignored his seniors' comments. His sense of time differed from theirs. If he wanted to survive, he needed to reach heights unseen before he turned 20. From white to blue, and even black like Ma Jin and the unseen purple. The lord of the desolate fortress was someone who covered 17 levels of martial prowess. There was no room for relaxation. Phew. Before he knew it, he had arrived at the small training hall. The labyrinthine halls of the desolate fortress greeted him warmly as always. He avoided rooms that emanated auras, entering an empty training room. Reflecting on the past year, Yunshin realized how much had changed. Now 16 years old, in a civilian life, this was the age when boys would typically marry and start a family. Yunshin would have likely followed the same path. However, the Zhong family differed from typical martial families, not considering it a big deal if their children's marriages were delayed. As a minor martial family and large landowner, their customs were more aligned with the commoners. Who would I have married? A pointless thought. He cleared his mind using the Zhong family dynamic training to dispel any idle thoughts. He began moving slowly. As he released his chi, the demon's light quickly emerged, creating various trajectories based on different scenarios. This included the techniques of hand arts and leg arts. Swish! Whoosh! A close-range strike. After a wide swing with his leg, he planted his foot and delivered a direct punch. The force of his intention caused the air to tremble. He could vividly recall Ma Jin's teachings from the battle with the Blood Flame sect. Having mastered the Zhong family dynamic training, Yunshin had forged an exceptionally strong physique. Close combat was different from sword techniques, emphasizing his unique strengths in fighting. I want to perfect the hand and leg arts. As time passed, using his boyish appearance as a diversion would become increasingly difficult. He couldn't rely on his opponent's complacency forever. He needed to hone every weapon at his disposal to its sharpest edge. Is there anything that could inspire me? Yunshin, still in a punching stance, pondered this when a sky-blue radiance caught his eye. In Ma Jin's quarters. What was the temperament of Lightning Flash when standing on the brink of life and death? How did he treat his comrades? Myong and Miyo, having returned from their mission, were conversing with Ma Jin. On the brink of life and death. Myong, looking dazed, asked again, while Miyo remained silent. Was there such a moment? Ma Jin's expression turned curious. Didn't you mention there was a Blood Master? You said a branch-level force was active. Did you two handle it to protect the white uniforms? Written reports have their limits. Explain in detail. Well. Thinking back, the task given to the two Blue Masters wasn't singular. The instruction to observe the Lightning Flash's temperament seemed more important than the original mission. Baek Miyo understood why Ma Jin was pressing so urgently. If he wasn't considering the Lightning Flash as his successor, such inquiries wouldn't make sense. But it was unfortunate, for there was nothing to report. The Blood Flame sect branch was destroyed without much opportunity to observe. Lightning Flash did it alone. The only thing I can say is that he maintained his manners despite the arduous journey. His exceptional martial arts prowess didn't seem to be his primary concern. Ma Jin fell into silent contemplation. The shock of Lightning Flash single-handedly annihilating the Blood Flame sect branch was immense. It was a level where even the high-ranking members of the 9 great sects or the 8 great families would struggle. Chong Myong. Ma Jin's gaze turned to the sole member of the elven race. There was a famous tale about the keen perception of the elven race. The predecessor's predecessor, Empress Dowager Cixi, had identified and punished a few treasonous ministers after the founding of the country. She was said to have matched the current emperor, who alone had managed to deal with the 108 Arhat formation of the Shaolin. Known for her unparalleled martial arts, she cast a significant presence over the imperial family for over a century. Even common folk knew her story. The elven race had different sensory perceptions compared to humans. The final test at the Desolate Fortress involved a private meeting with the Lord of the Desolate Fortress for a reason. Ma Jin wanted to confirm something more profound, whether Yunshin had the qualities to lead. He is impressive for his age. Despite the thick killing intent, he knows how to control it. He has an extraordinary disposition. Jing Myong smiled lightly. Killing intent, you say? It seems natural, doesn't it? He didn't speak a word about his origins during the journey. His manners indicate he is well educated. I agree. It appears both new recruits have severed ties with their families. I see. It's not unexpected, but... Ma Jin tapped the table with his fingers before slowly nodding. Before succession, it's crucial to take care of our own. We have time. It's intriguing to see how much unexpected merit they'll accumulate. They'll be rewarding to nurture. I think so too. I wonder when he'll don the blue uniform. It doesn't seem far off. Their conversation was more like casual chat than a formal report. The night slowly settled over Ma Jin's quarters. The next morning. Lightning flash, the captain has summoned you. A senior in a white uniform from the Demon Wings called out to Yunshin. His tone had changed from before. It felt much more cautious. The news of the recent mission had spread, changing the way others viewed him. He could no longer be treated merely as a promising junior. Whenever he was in the Grand Training Hall, he often heard remarks like, he killed a blood master, even 3 days after his return. Out of the 36 members of the Demon Wings, 10 wore white uniforms. To handle a branch of the Blood Flame sect alone at that level was rare. Rumors even suggested he might become the youngest blue-uniformed warrior in the shortest time. Yes, I'll head up. Yunshin politely bowed. He resolved to maintain proper conduct whenever he heard praise about himself. He did not believe that an absolute master without popular support could become the leader of the Divine Sword Squad. Perhaps because of this, the way people viewed him was improving day by day. He even felt a warmth that was noticeable. Is it a new mission? While the Desolate Fortress guaranteed a month's rest for warriors returning from an expedition, he did not take that promise at face value. Who could predict what might happen in the martial world? Come in. As soon as he reached the end of the hall, Ma Jin's deep voice resonated. He seemed to sense Yunshin's presence immediately, despite the young warrior practicing the wind and leaf footwork to blend into the surroundings. Impressed, he opened the door and entered the room. He paused slightly. Ma Jin's face was unusually serious. The scar crossing his face looked as if it had hardened permanently. Is there an urgent mission? Something important. Although you have shown unprecedented achievements, you are not yet at a level where you would be given significant tasks by the Demon Wings. Expectations are high, though. Ma Jin's scar twitched. It seemed he was trying to smile approvingly in his way. It's not a mission. However, it's more important than any ordinary task. The Lord of the Desolate Fortress has requested your presence. The Lord of the Desolate Fortress. The image of the absolute ruler with green eyes flashed in his mind. He could not judge the Lord's depth. Is it common for the Lord to summon a white-uniformed warrior after an interview? It's unprecedented, which is why I'm uneasy. Her intentions are impossible to fathom. Ma Jin gestured with a solemn expression. Nevertheless, we cannot delay. Let's go. Following Ma Jin, Yunshin hurried out of the Demon Wings quarters. The path to the Lord of the Desolate Fortress's residence was quite a distance. Even though he walked quickly to match Ma Jin's pace, it took the time of a leisurely tea to get there. Throughout the walk, all eyes were on Yunshin. Perhaps due to the noticeable scar on Ma Jin's face or the fact that the formidable Demon Wings leader was accompanying him. Everyone recognized Ma Jin, who was known for creating hellish scenes on every battlefield he passed. Simultaneously, their attention was also on the boy walking a step behind him. That's the lightning flash of the Demon Wings. The one who killed a blood master? He looks even younger than I expected. The sight of a boy in a white uniform was unique to the Desolate Fortress. It was said that Yunshin was the only one. It was still strange for Yunshin to be recognized by strangers. He maintained a nonchalant expression and silently followed Ma Jin. Soon, they arrived at the main residence, where he had undergone the final test of the desolate exam. "Let's go." Ma Jin entered without hesitation, and the guards did not stop them. Perhaps it was due to the commanding presence of the black-uniformed Ma Jin or their trust in the Lord's authority. The two climbed the long stairs to the Lord's chamber. Simultaneously, the doors opened wide on their own. A refreshing breeze caressed Yunshin's cheek. The first sight that greeted him was, as always, her. The lord of the desolate fortress sat diagonally on the trunk of a tree, which snaked through the office like a giant serpent. Her deep green eyes, which seemed to contain all the wonders of the world, glanced at Ma Jin before settling on Yunshin. Her hands, white and smooth as if untouched by the world, lifted slightly. "Come here. We greet the Lord." Following Ma Jin's formal salute, Yunshin bowed as well and then noticed the others present. Two people. The first to catch his eye was an elderly man. With sharp eyes and a large build, his immaculate white beard reached his chest. His sturdy body was clad in a unique purple robe with a high collar standing stiffly. The robe matched his firm and sharp impression perfectly. A purple-robed master who surpasses even the captain. The elder's aura was so intense that it would have stood out if the lord of the desolate fortress were not present. Next to him stood a boy with an arrogant yet handsome appearance. The boy's black and white eyes stared at Yunshin challengingly. "You must be the lightning flash of the demon wings. I am Ma Yun-jiok, the one who once led the Divine Sword Squad." The purple-robed elder spoke with an impressive voice. It felt as though he would refer to himself as the supreme being if the Lord were not present. "I requested this meeting because my grandson wanted to see a peer of his age who is a master. It's a pleasure to meet you." Ignoring Ma Yun-jiok's words, Yunshin's gaze shifted to the other side. The lord of the desolate fortress, saying nothing, slightly raised the corners of her mouth as if to say, "Do as you wish. If you desire, I will endorse it." It wasn't a transmission of qi. There was no flow of energy. It was a voice that resonated fundamentally in his mind, akin to the Wisdom Heart Sutra used by the supreme monks of Shaolin. Why is she being so kind to me? Yunshin pondered this as he looked at his maternal grandfather. Footnotes. Empress Dowager Cixi was a Manchu noblewoman of the Yehe Noro clan who effectively controlled the Chinese government in the late Qing dynasty as Empress Dowager and regent for almost 50 years.